Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Reading by the Mushroom Light. I'm sipping on some wild berry tea, and if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, green oxide, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, fire red, deep yellow, and Mars black. Of course, you can switch up those colors if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'll be using for some drawing, and then I have 3 brushes. I have a 1/2 inch wide flat bristle brush, a number 12 round synthetic brush, and a number 5 round synthetic brush, and I'll refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course, you can switch those up as well if you'd like. If you're painting along with me, you'll probably want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using from the same type of canvas, paints, brushes, and all the good stuff in between. So that's there for you. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting our background. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are green, blue, white, and black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating a far off in the distance kind of medium bluish green color that's going to really give us some great depth in this forest for the upper portion of the canvas, and then the bottom portion we're going to be doing with black, and we'll get them to kind of blend a little bit in the middle. So how I'm going to start this is I'm going to create myself a bluish green color, and we'll be using that for the majority of the top portion. So I've already magically made it off camera so you can see where I'm headed. So this is the color I'm going for. How I got to that was I used my blue with a little bit of green in it, and you can just spin it around until it gets to be a shade of bluish green that you like. And then once you've got it into the color that you want, what you can do is you can add a tiny bit, just an itty bitty bit of white paint into it. That's going to help with the opacity of it so it's not super see-through. So this is looking pretty good for me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting at the top of my canvas with this color, and I'm going to be bringing my color down. If this is about halfway down my canvas, I'm about 1 inch to 2 inches below that. I'm just going to make myself a little bit of a marker so I know how far I'm going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bluish green color and I'm going to apply it in a left to right type of fashion. I'm going to go about halfway down this section, and I'm loading it with a pretty good amount of paint. So don't be shy when it comes to the quantity of paint that you're loading up here. And you don't have to blend it perfectly because we're going to be doing a different technique in a second here. Now what I'm going to do with my dirty brush is I'm going to pick up that bluish green plus white on my brush, and I'm going to start to make this area go lighter and lighter down towards my marker. Now I'm just picking up some white paint on my dirty brush, and I'm going to bring this all the way down to my marker. I just keep picking up white paint at this point, so it's getting a little bit lighter as it's coming down towards this marker. And then once I've got it on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling it up and down. So what this is going to do is it's going to give us the illusion of some distant trees off in the forest. We're going to be putting distinct trees on later, but this will just kind of get us started with a dark top to it and getting it to go a little bit lighter as it comes down. Now that I've got that on there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to color this bottom portion with black paint. So I'm just washing and drying my brush, giving it a good squeeze on my paper towel, and then I'm going to pick up black paint and color in this entire bottom area. So there's not going to be any special brush stroke getting the black paint on until we reach the area that it's touching the previous area that we already painted. So you can do a left to right, you can do a vertical, whatever works for you to get it on, because you won't be able to detect the brush strokes of the black anyways, because it covers very well. And then once I've gotten up to my area that I've already painted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a real kind of messy, out of focus type of appearance. So I'm just about there now, making sure I've got this handled. What I'm going to do with my dirty brush is I'm just going to kind of tap it up into the previous section. I'm going to go a little bit higher on the left and the right, so this is going to give me some out of focus appearance because my background is still a little bit wet for this upper area. If yours is dried by now, you could certainly pick up a little bit of white plus that background color on your brush just to get it to blend in a little bit along this edge. And that way it'll appear as if this is going off into the distance and it's going a little bit out of focus, and you want it to be nice and messy, so that way it really kind of gives that visual effect. And then you just want to make sure everything is painted in here, that you don't have any blank spaces that are not painted in with your colors. And then we are going to be utilizing our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put this large brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting our tree trunks and branches. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to be using are my blue-green that we mixed, plus black and maybe a little bit of white. I do want to forewarn you before you start this step that you want to make sure that your canvas is pretty dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry, or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. It doesn't have to be totally dry, but it'll make your process a little bit easier. So what I'm really going to do is I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of vertical lines. I don't want my trees to take away from what's happening in my focal point. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of just vertical trunks, and then towards the top of the canvas is where I'll put in a couple of branches, because I'm going to want to see more of the trunks and not a lot of branches and stuff like that to take away from my focal point. So I'm going to load my brush with some of that green blue. I know when I bring it down into this light area, you'll be able to see it. So that's going to be kind of one color of tree. You can do a whole bunch of those if you want to in this light area. I am just using my medium brush, so that way I've got a pointy tip on it, so I can make some thinner ones or some thicker ones. You can also utilize a little bit of white with your background color. So if you want some lighter ones to appear up top, you can certainly use your blue-green color with a little bit of white on your brush. And really, I'm just doing vertical lines at this point. When I get up towards the top, I'll branch out a little bit, but now I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my blue-green plus a touch of black paint. And when I do the black paint on this, I again don't need a lot on my brush. You can even put a little bit of water on your brush in order to get some nice flowy long type of strokes. But we're going for kind of an out of focus. These are our background trees. We don't want them to take up the we don't want them to steal the show, I guess, is the point. So I don't want them to have a ton of detail on them. I'm really just kind of going for this carefree. Maybe some are thick, maybe some are thin. I'm going to do a couple with some branches now. So I've got my background color plus a teeny bit of black paint on my brush, so I can give myself the illusion of some branches every now and again. But again, I don't want too much in the branch region down below. So just some, you know, maybe diagonal marks, maybe some little swishy marks over to the side to imply that there's some branches up there, but nothing really too imposing, again, because I don't want it to take away from my focal point. And again, you can add as many as you want. If you want there to be some thinner ones or some thicker ones, just, you know, keep adding them until you feel that you've got a great representation of some distant trees and their trunks and maybe a couple of branches. And they don't all have to be super straight up too. You can put some at a little bit of an angle as well. I just chose to do a lot of mine pretty vertical just because I wanted it to, you know, look like it was off in the distance and we're just seeing some of the trunks. And then what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be using our piece of chalk. So once you've got this all done, you can put your medium brush away. We'll be doing some other stuff around the edges. Maybe actually I'll put another tree or something over here on the side. Something like that. Maybe another good one over here. So you can put, you know, big ones on your sides, little, you know, just kind of keep fiddling with it. I might add, you know, one or two after I look at it from a distance. But once you've got it done, we will be utilizing our piece of chalk for the next step. So you can just get ready. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline of our mushroom and our frog. I'm going to be using my chalk. This, of course, I would recommend as well for your canvas to be dry before we start this step too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a series of really basic shapes that will resemble the exterior shape of these two objects. I'm not going to go for any fine-tuned detail. We're just looking for some basic shapes so we can start our painting process with them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my frog first, so that way I'll be able to position my mushroom lamp in the right spot. So I'm going to have my frog down here in the bottom right hand corner. You could certainly flip yours, put it on the other side. You could do really whatever you'd like, but I'm going to have mine down in the bottom right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the shape of the head with, I'm going to call it like a football shape. So it'll be kind of round with pointy edges to it. So what you'll want to do is kind of find yourself your center point on the bottom of your canvas, and then you're going to come up. If this is about halfway up your canvas, you're about 2 inches below that, and go over to the right about 2 inches. Make yourself a marker in through there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the right of that, I would say about 3 inches or so, and give yourself another marker. Now what I'm going to do, come to the center and go up about 1 inch, make myself a mark, and then down about 1 inch, make myself a mark. Now I'm going to connect these with, we'll call it a football shape. So these two edges will be kind of pointy. So I'm going to take this and then just kind of do it like that, and then like that. And that gives us the start of our frog head. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a couple of bumps on the top for my eyes. So we got one there, and then maybe another one in through here, not too far away from one another. You could even put the left one a little bit taller than the right one to make the head look a little bit crooked, like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself the back side of my frog. So I'm going to have my frog butt landing right about here. So this is maybe about 3 inches, 3.5 inches from the bottom of my canvas, and maybe in about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So it's a little bit to the right of the head. So a little bit to the right and then down in through here. I'm going to connect this with kind of 1 bump, 2 bumps. So I'm going to have kind of the back of the head and then the back of the body. So I'm going to take from in through here and then just bring it down just a little bit like that, and then bring it back out a little bit further for the rest of the body in through here. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to create the bottom part of my frog body. This is going to be kind of the bottom of the butt and the other part of the bottom of the butt, somewhere where it's hitting the ground, because he's sitting. So I'm going to make myself another marker somewhere about here. So this is to the left of this, maybe just up just a little bit, and it's a little bit to the right of my frog nose. So somewhere in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a couple of little curved lines. One like that, that's one cheek. And then there's the other cheek, something like that. Then what I'm going to do is I've got to create the front side of my frog. And again, we're just kind of looking for basic shapes right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have my feet in this area in through here, but I'm going to, for simplicity purposes of an outline, I'm going to give myself just a diagonal line for the left-hand side of the body. So I'm going to come in from here, maybe about an inch, somewhere in through here. This is going to be a diagonal line that's going to end up right about here. So this is a little bit lower than the butt and over maybe an inch or so from the nose of my frog, so somewhere about here. And then you can just connect these two with a diagonal line. Doesn't have to be anything perfect. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a couple little feet and the back side. There's going to be two legs in through here, but we really just need the outside edges of them. So from here, what I'm going to do is just draw myself another little diagonal line. Then I'll give myself a little bit of a curve like that. This is just going to be the edges of my frog little feet, and then you can just kind of bump out a couple of little bumps in through there. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an area where my book and my hands are going to go in through here. So I'm going to come down from here maybe about an inch, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a curved line like that. I'm going to give myself a vertical line like this that's just maybe about a quarter of an inch. I'm going to come in just a little bit like that, and then I'm going to give myself this round kind of curved shape in through there. And that's all I'm going to do for my frog. I'm going to move on to my mushroom. So my mushroom I'm going to have tipped like this, so it's casting a light towards my frog. So I want the edge of my mushroom to be a little bit above like the nose of my frog. So I'm going to start mine right about here. So where this is, if you find the center of your canvas, which for me is probably right about here, I'm going to go up about 2 inches and over about 2 inches. That's going to be the start of my mushroom. I'm going to do an oval shape to begin this. The other side of my oval is going to end up somewhere down in this vicinity. So this is almost parallel to where my nose is over to the left. It might be a little bit higher than that. So somewhere in this vicinity. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two with a big old oval. So I'm going to take this and just bring it up in through here, connect it to here, and then I will bring this up in through here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just giving a nice organic mushroom kind of shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a fun topper to it. So I'll start over here on the right hand side, bring it up a little bit, give it a little bit of a curve in through there, and then just bring it down. And of course yours can be whatever shape you would like. And now I just need to give myself the bottom part or the part of the stem. So I want it to be pretty wide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come actually from the left of here and go down just a little bit. So somewhere in through here. Then I'm going to go to the left of that, a pretty good distance, maybe about 3.5, 4 inches, somewhere in through here. And now I'm going to just get these to go up into my mushroom, something like this, and then something like this. So it's wide at the bottom, and then it just narrows. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. I suppose you could give a bottom to this, but we're just going to stop it there when we go to paint. We're going to be using our medium brush for the next step, so you can put your chalk away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coats of our frog and our mushroom. So I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are green, brown, and red. And really I'm just going to do flat colors for them as a base coat. So for my frog, I'm just coloring this entire frog with just green paint. You could certainly utilize a different color for the book if you wanted to, or for the head versus the body, totally up to you. I am painting an imaginary frog that is not intended to look like any specific breed of frog. So if you want yours to look like a specific type of frog, you know, that you like the coloring on or something like that, you could certainly choose to do a different color for the base. But I'm just going with green because I associate frogs most of the time with green, which I think is, you know, the common brain goes to frogs are green, but I do know that they come in all different kinds of colors, but we're going with a generic color. So again, I'm just bringing it all the way to my chalk. If while you are painting it in this base coat, you feel that your chalk might have gotten a little out of control and you don't want to bring your paint all the way to the edges of your chalk, that's okay. Just leave them be. You can leave a little bit of the chalk showing if you want to, and then once your paint dries, you can always erase those remnants of the chalk with a little bit of water. So like as I do this, some of my areas, I'm like, well, maybe I can just leave that chalk there, or, you know, I don't really pay too much attention if I get it all the time, because I know it's an easy correct as that paint, after that paint dries. So once I've got that in place, and it is satisfactory to me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush. And you could certainly do multiple layers on this just to get a good coat, but we'll be doing lots of details later that will help to make that streakiness go away. So I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to be doing the base of my mushroom as well as the underside with brown paint. So I just loaded my brush with brown paint, and I'm just going to be putting on a coat of brown paint in these two sections. So you might again find that you want to incorporate different colors. Again, this is an imaginary this is an imaginary mushroom that I just liked the colors of, so I just created it to complement my painting, but you could certainly make yours any colors that you want. Mushrooms are fantastic for these fantasy style paintings because you can really have fun with the different patterns and colors and stuff on them, and of course you could certainly do it with a real color. I'm just going, as I go down to where it's going to hit the grassy area, I'm just giving it a real messy kind of edge along that edge, and then just bringing it all the way to the edge of my chalk. And once I've got this section colored in, I am going to wash my brush in order to put the red base color on the top of my mushroom. And again, don't worry if it's not perfect coverage. We've got lots of additional stuff we're going to be adding on to there. So I'm just washing and drying my brush, and I'm going to load my brush with red paint and paint this top section with just red paint. We are again going to be doing much detail on top of this. This is just going to give us a fun base coat to work with. What I am going to do, this is going to be the only section that I do something a little bit different on. So I'm going to put the red paint in my section that I have outlined with my chalk, but then as I come along the bottom edges of my mushroom, I'm going to wrap this red around that bottom edge of the mushroom, so it almost looks like it is outlining that bottom side of it. If your brown is still wet and you bump into that, just let it blend in with each other. It doesn't, if it blends in with each other, that's fine. You'll still be able to detect that it's got that redness to it. I'm just kind of looking for the illusion of the edge of the mushroom, so we can see that it does in fact have some dimension to it and all that good stuff. And then once you've got this done, we're going to switch brushes to our small brush. So you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the dark areas on our frog. I'm going to use my small brush. I'm going to call it the dark areas because we're going to be doing shadows, but we're also going to be putting in strategic areas that are going to be dark, like the eyes. So we're going to put them in place with some dark colors, and we'll build on top of them later. But we're going to be, in essence, kind of putting marks and lines in order to separate our legs, separate the book from the hands, putting shadows between the appendages and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to call it the dark areas. So the colors I'm going to be using are black, brown, and green. And what I'm going to in essence do is guide you through how to separate these areas like the face from the chest and the arms from the chest and all that good stuff. And we'll be making some light or some lines in order to represent those areas. I'm never going to have a ton of paint on my brush. I will mostly be using the green and brown. The black I'm going to be using, seemingly it's going to look like a lot, but I'm really never going to have a lot of black on my brush because once it goes that dark, it's really tough to get lighter. So I'm just going to be using it sparingly. So I'm going to start with green and brown on my brush at the same time, and I'm going to start kind of sketching out where these areas are going to go. So I know that I want my head to be separate from my body, so I'm putting just a little bit more brown on my brush so we can see where we're going to have that in through there. I also need to separate out my arms from the back of the body as well as the book and stuff. I think I am going to put a little bit of brown plus a tiny bit of black on my brush so it is more visible on camera. So I'm going to go from where this area meets here. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a curved type of line coming down towards the middle of this area in through here. This is going to represent like the elbow of our frog, and then I'm going to bring it back up into this area in through here. So you don't necessarily have to bring it all the way to the edge, just maybe somewhere in through here. And then I'm going to come up this elbow just a little bit and give myself a diagonal line. This is going to separate the leg from the inside of the belly area. And then I just take my dark color that's on my brush and kind of fill in this little triangle type of an area. I'm going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel just to get this color to fade out into this back area and through here. So you can see how that immediately separated out that leg from the side of the body in through here, and we still have our arm in there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow a similar process through the whole thing. Now that I've got my arm separated from this bottom region in through here, I can take from this in this little indent in through here, bring a line up in through here. I've got black and brown on my brush right now. This is going to, actually I want this a little bit. I want this a little bit wider in through here. There we go. I've got black and brown on my brush. I'm separating the leg from the butt in through here, and then I'm going to bring this down and meet this line right in through here. And then this whole area down here is going to be pretty darn dark. So I'm just using that brown and black, just rubbing it in, letting it run out so it's almost a little bit lighter on that edge in through there. I'm going to do the same thing down between these two legs. So again, just brown and black. I'm going to come in from here, just maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, somewhere in through here. You can put a little bit of water on your brush as well while you're doing this so you can get these more slender lines just to help you guide you through marking off where you want to mark off. I'm bringing this down to where the ankles are, and then I'm going to bring this over to the left. So to me, the left-hand side of these legs is going to be catching the light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow on the right-hand side of each leg. So just a little bit, whatever remnants I have on my brush, I'm just kind of rubbing in a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Just rubbing in a little bit of that remnants that are on my brush so it looks like it's a little bit shadowed in through there. I'm going to bring a little bit of black and brown in between my frog toes. So I have just a little bit of black and brown, and I'm just going to bring in these cute little shadowy lines in between my toes. Again, you might find you want more toes than me or less toes than me. Whatever you want is totally fine. And then what I'm going to do is I've got to separate out up in through here. So again, just using my brown and black on my brush at the same time. I need to figure out where I want my book to go. So what I've already got the top of it in through here, and I've got my hands in through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of outline what I want for my book to be. So I've got this going in through here. I'm going to bring just up a little curve in through here, and then this is going to be almost like a flat line for the side of the book. Of course, I've got my arm over here, so I don't need to bring it too far. And then I'm going to just give kind of a curved line for the top portion of the book. So something like that will work out. I'm going to take this as my arm, bringing a line up in through here, and then over on this left-hand side from bring it just in a little bit in through there, giving myself a little bit of a curved line. What I just did was I created an arm here, a chest here, an arm, and the top of my book. Now what I do is I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel, and I'm going to give a nice dark shadowed area in through here. So this is going to be the chest area that's nice and shadowed from underneath the frog head. And you can bring a little bit in through here as well, just whatever that darkness is, just kind of let it fade up into that. Let's see, we've got fingers we'll put on, so a little bit of brown and black. Similar to what I did to the toes, I'm just going to give myself a whole bunch of curved little frog finger shadows in through here, so something like that will totally work, and maybe a little bit of shadow underneath that book onto the arm underneath it. So a little bit of shadow in through there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself area for the eyes. So again, a little bit of brown and black. I'm going to color in this whole section with brown and black. So my head is going to be round in through here, and this eye is going to be on the other side, on this left one. But it can cast a little bit of a shadow onto the head, so you can put a little bit of an area in through there. Again, black and brown. I'm going to do my other eye in through here. So this is going to be the one that's closer to us, so we get to see the entire eye in through here. And again, we'll be putting more details on it, but this is just kind of giving me the shape of it, and then maybe a little bit of a shadowy kind of area behind it that's going to give the form of that particular piece of body in through there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of a mouth, so black and brown, going to be right where this part bumps out, and you can give yourself whatever kind of fun looking mouth shape that you want and just get it to kind of blend in. Now the rest of the area, I'm going to pick up brown and green just to make sure everything is blended in. So brown and green is on my brush right now, and this right side of the body is going to be a little bit darker. So whatever remnants of the black I have on my brush, I'm just going to kind of let off onto my frog. So this again is just the remnants on my brush with the whatever black I still had on there, plus a little bit of green and brown. And this is giving me that dark side of the frog over on this side. If you need any more blending, just pick up a little bit of green, and that will help you to blend those dark sections into what will be the lighter sections or the highlighted sections when we get to that step. And then just do as much little fiddling as you want. We'll color in the book later. We are going to be utilizing or using this small brush for the next step. So once you've got your dark areas on your frog, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our eyes and our book. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm going to use are brown, black, white, red, and maybe some yellow and some green. I'll call them out as I'm going to use them. I'm going to start with my book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put brown and white on my brush at the same time, and I'm going to give myself kind of a base coat for my book. I know that I want my pages to look like they're curved over and that I have a binder or the center of my book somewhere in through here. So as I do this, I am consciously thinking, okay, the direction of my pages, I'll have, you know, something on the top, along the sides. I'm going to have the edges of the pages kind of going left to right, but this base coat really, I don't need to do a ton of detail. I just kind of in my head because I'm using both white and brown on my brush at the same time, I just keep my brush moving in the direction I feel that these pieces would be going. So I feel like I'd have the edge of the book in through here showing the little pages, so I'll just move my brush in that direction, picking up a little bit more brown to get this this side over here. But again, just brown and white. Maybe one side is a little bit lighter or darker than the other. And then once I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black and brown. I didn't wash my brush, I just picked them both up at the same time, and I'm going to put little details in the edges of the book to make it look like we're maybe seeing the distinct pages of the book. You can even do that along this edge over in through here. So again, just black and brown, not a lot of paint on my brush. I'm really just using the tip of my brush to give myself these little almost shadows in through there. I'm going to put a tiny bit of a dark shadow in through here, and then just pull it up like this so it looks like that page or that part of the book might be shadowed. Now I wiped my brush off on my paper towel, picked up a little bit of white, so I'm going to add a bit of a highlight in through here and then maybe over on the edge of the book in through here. So this will just give you the illusion that the book itself is being illuminated as well as the frog is going to be, but this just gives you that little extra bit of information, putting those strategic highlights and shadows and giving yourself a little bit of dimension in through there. And then of course you can play with that as much as you want. I'm going to move on to the eyes. So I'm washing and drying my brush right now. I'm going to pick up a little bit of red paint to give myself kind of, I'll call it the eyelid of sorts. So I'm going about halfway down the eye and just giving myself a little curved line. I'm going to do it on the left hand side as well, so something right in through here, give myself a similar kind of curve. Then I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to put a little highlight on the top of those eyelids, so I'm going yellow and green and white are going on my brush at the same time to give myself a little tiny highlight at the I need a little more white and yellow so we can see it. Little tiny highlight at the edge that is going to be closest to my light source, and then just pull it down this right hand side. So white, yellow, and a tiny bit of green, and it's going to be over on this far edge where the light source is going to be hitting it, and then I just pull it down towards the right. And if you feel like you need a little bit more, just add a tiny bit more white on your brush just to give you that illusion of it being hit by the highlight of the light source. Then I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put some little twinkles and sparkles in the eye. So washing and drying my brush. You could do this with kind of almost any color you want. I'm going to start with brown though and just give myself a little bit of a colored part of the eye. So a little bit of brown on my brush. Nothing major. Just something to say that these eyes have a little bit of fun color in them. And now I'm just going to pick up a little bit of white and black. So in essence, I kind of have a grayish type of a color on my brush to give myself a little bit of a, we'll call it a little glaze on the outside of that eye. So something like this just kind of pulls that glaze of sorts, so it makes those eyes look round. Then I wash and dry my brush, put a little bit of white paint on my brush. Now comes the twinkles in the eye. So a little bit of white paint on my brush gives me a couple little twinkles in that eye. And of course you can keep fiddling with this as much as you want to and doing any little modifications, but we're going to use this small brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our frog. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm going to use are green, yellow, white, and if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I might use a little brown here or there or black, but I'll let you know. So what I'm really going to do is I'm adding the highlights on the side that the light source is going to be. So we're going to have a big highlight on the nose. We're going to have little glowing edges to the parts that I feel that we would need them. We'll put some cute little frog fingertips and toes, and some nice highlights along the edges. And then if we have any little finessing that we need to do, we can do that as well. So this is another step where you don't need a lot of paint. I'm going to be taking my paint and most of the time just giving a little bit of a rubbing type of a technique, or just a little swipe of a highlight in the areas that I feel are necessary. So I'm going to start, let's start with the face. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of white and yellow on my brush at the same time. And really, I recommend just wiping it off on your paper towel. Less is more. You can always add more, and you can control it better the less paint you have on your brush. So I know that I want a nice bright highlight over here on the left-hand side of this nose. So I'm going to just kind of bring that brightness in here, and then I will rub it out into the rest of the face. So I've just got it on my brush, and I feel that you'd have a little bit on the top of this mouth in through here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more yellow on my brush so I can get this to have more of a yellowy kind of glow, and then I just sit here and I rub it out. If anything goes wrong, you can just pick up some of that green to reverse it and start over, or just kind of let it dry. Like, I feel like I want to do another layer on this, but I want to let it dry for a second first so I don't scrub it too hard. So now with the remnants on my brush, I can start putting, well, I need more than that. I thought I could get away with the remnants, but I had to pick up a little bit more yellow and white. I'm going to put a little tiny glow on the chin, or underneath that neck. I'll put a little bit on this arm, maybe a touch on the chest in through here. So wherever you feel, and it would mostly be on this left-hand side, that light would be casting a bright glow, that's where you're going to put it. So furthest to the left will get it brighter. So I just put a little bit more white paint on my brush to get that edge of the shoulder nice and bright. I'm going to do the same thing with my legs. So I have yellow and white on my brush at the same time. I'm going to bring it down this left-hand side of the leg, left-hand side of the leg, and then you can either pick up green or yellow. I'm picking up a little bit of green and yellow just to get it to blend in a little bit with the shin of my frog, so something like that. And you can, you know, get it to be more vibrant. I'm going to pick a tiny bit of white paint up just to give myself a nice bright light right there on that shin bone. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my toes and my fingers. So yellow, white, green, whatever colors are speaking to you. I have more of my yellow is my dominant color right now on my brush. So I'm just going to give these little highlights for my toes like this. I've got mostly yellow, maybe a little bit of white on there, and maybe a little bit of green, but I'm just kind of pulling out those toes. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and give them these little cute highlights on some of my toes. You don't need to do them all. The ones on the left are closer to the light source. And again, just picking up maybe a little bit more yellow on my brush to do the same thing with the fingers. So just giving myself some highlights on my frog fingers. I don't even know how many frog fingers I have or should have, so I'm just going to do some little strategic lines in between those shadowy marks that we did. I just picked up a little bit more white so I can have maybe some cute frog fingertips overlapping that book a little bit. That'll give you a more realistic look as far as frogs reading books are realism. You can just overlap and provide those little realistic qualities, and it makes for an even funner painting. So I'm going to add a touch more of this highlight over here on the nose. I feel like it needs to be a little bit brighter, and it's dried a little bit for me, so I can go ahead and add that bit of a highlight in through here. And then I would just keep fiddling with it. You might find that you want more brightness than I have, or you might find that back here needs a little bit more finessing. So I just picked up a little bit of green paint on my brush just in order to get this to kind of blend out a little bit more. You know, this will be a personal preference. If you want that right hand side to be darker, you could certainly pick up more brown or black, or do, you know, anything that you feel is necessary to finesse these areas. You could even, on this bottom side of the butt, that would be catching a little bit of light, so you could illuminate that a little bit more if you wanted to. And then you just kind of keep playing with it. I'm picking up a touch of brown, maybe just dulling down this back side of this leg. And then once you've got this all nice and done, we are going to be utilizing our medium brush for the next step. So fiddle with this as much as you want, put your small brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish our mushroom. I'm gonna be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are red, brown, black, white, and yellow too. So what I'm in essence doing is I'm going to be separating out my stem from my mushroom, and then I'm going to be painting this in underneath kind of detail, and then we'll put some detail on our stem and the top of our mushroom, and then we'll be magically done. We're going to put the light on, the light coming from our mushroom, we'll put that later, so you don't have to worry about that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush at the same time. I want to kind of separate out my stem from this underneath area. So from here, I'm going to just kind of bring my stem, I'm going to outline kind of the left-hand side of it and bring it up into about this area in through here. I have black and brown on my brush right now, and what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to just kind of pull it into this side area. So this, what this is doing is it's creating a little bit of a shadow underneath the mushroom in through here. I'm not pressing hard, just using the tip of my brush. I'm going to use that same color combination to section off where the stem is going into my mushroom in through here. And then I'm just going to, of course, utilize still just a little bit of that remnants on my brush to get that to separate out. I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right hand side. The right hand side is going to be illuminated a little bit more than the left hand side, so I don't need to do as much over here. So that's why I tackled this side second, so I don't have as much paint on my brush and just kind of getting that area to transition. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using brown, red, and white to make some marks on the inside of my, on the underside of my mushroom. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to start with brown and white on my brush to give myself the direction of these curved lines that I want to do. So I'm going to have them kind of coming out from the center in these curved type of lines. So you can, to set your mind kind of straight, you can start at the top right hand corner of your stem and give yourself kind of a curved line like that, and then do the same thing on the top left hand side in the opposite direction like this. So now you've got your formula to follow. All of these curves are going to come out of the center of the mushrooms. So they go in various directions, and if you go into your top, that's okay. They go in these directions that are coming from the center, and I'm going to give them these curves. I just reloaded my brush with brown and white, and again, I'm not pressing hard, just kind of giving myself these nice curved lines that are going to give me the underside of my mushrooms, something like this. And then once I've got that, I'm going to pick up a little bit of red without washing my brush to just intermingle a little bit of this beautiful red color in through here. So you don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. Unless you love this color, then add as much into it as you want. I'm just really looking to give myself a nice full representation of these beautiful colors in this mushroom. And of course, yours don't have to be, your mushroom doesn't have to be the exact same color as mine. You can have fun with it. Then I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to work on the stem part. So washing and drying my brush, I just want to have a little bit of highlight on the right hand side and a little bit darker area on the left hand side. So I'm loading my brush with brown paint. I'm going to start over here on the left hand side, just get it a little bit wet, so that way I've got a starting point to create this with. So just a little bit of brown paint, getting that this stem nice and wet. You can even put a little bit of that brown paint over on the right hand side. Again, this just kind of allows you to do some quick blending if you start with it on a little bit on the moist side like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and white to go on this right hand side. I want my brightest area to be down here at the bottom because I feel that that's where it would get illuminated the most. So a little bit of yellow and white, and then I just use the side of my brush to get it to blend in towards this left hand side. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red and yellow right now so I can give a little bit of a more of an orangey type of a hue on the center type of area of the mushroom. And again, this mushroom can be bumpy. Maybe yours even has spots all over it. You get to make it into whatever style of mushroom that you would like. And then I just gently blend this until I've got as much information on there as I want. I think I'm going to get it a little bit darker up and through here. So I'm actually picking up a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush right now just to get this little area up and through here a little bit darker so it looks like it's receding up into the depths of the mushroom. Now I'm wiping my brush off, picking up just a teeny tiny bit more of yellow and white and giving myself just a bit more highlight over here on this left or right hand side. And then once I've got this as vibrant and as detailed as I want it to be, I am going to be washing and drying my brush, and I'm going to put my details on the top of my mushroom. So that's going to be with red, black, and brown. So this is looking pretty good to me. I've got some good dimension on this. You could even bring in some blue. You have the blue on your palette from the top part of the canvas, so you could do that if you wanted to. Totally up to you. I'm washing and drying my brush right now, and I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black, red, and brown. So I have 3 colors on my brush, black, red, and brown. I'm going to give myself a nice deep dark area up at the top of my mushroom. So this is going to look like it is on the, definitely not being illuminated too much. It's just the far side of the top of that mushroom, getting it to go pretty darn dark all the way towards that edge. And then once I've got that edge nice and dark, now I start picking up just red paint so I can get this to blend in together. And if you still have some more of the black and the brown on your brush, that's fine. Just blend it on in. That's the beautiful part of this. I like that deep, rich look to this mushroom. It's going to really make it look like it's in this nice dark forest. And then once you've got a good coverage on that, again, it can have lumps and bumps, and it can have all kinds of texture to it. Once I've done that, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red and an itty bitty bit of white paint on my brush, just a teeny tiny bit. Give myself this little light edge to my mushroom that maybe is being illuminated by the by what's going to be the light source. So this is red plus a tiny bit of white paint just along these little edges of the mushroom. So when we do put that light source in there, we've got this solid area that looks like it's being illuminated. And then you just fiddle with it. If you need more of anything, feel free to go back and put more red, put more black, put more brown, whatever you feel is necessary. And then we are going to be using our let's use our medium brush for the next step, so which is this one. So once you've got this done, just wash this brush, dry it, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some grass and some leaves. I did say that I was going to use my medium brush, but I'm actually going to be using my medium and my large brush, so you can just get both of those brushes prepared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a whole bunch of wild grass down on the ground, and I'm also going to put some leaves in the trees that are going to kind of give our painting a frame, so to speak. So I've got my medium brush. I'm going to start with black paint on my brush. So in order to get the grass to look nice and wild and that it is intermingled and that our frog is in the grass and our mushroom is in the grass, we need to have some shadowy type of pieces that are going to go in front of these objects. So I like to use black to start that kind of process, so that way I've got the immediate makings of some nice shadow and some dimension in my grass. So I just picked up a little bit more black. I'm going to put some right along his rear end in through here. You can even bring some in front of, you know, along the sides. If you want the grass to look really long, you can certainly do that. This wild grass is great to hide things too. So if you've done something and you're like, well, I would really like to disguise that, just put some big grass in front of it. Like you can put some in front of the ankles or the feet, whatever works for you. I'm just kind of bringing these little pieces up again so it looks like he's nice and nestled in there. I'm also going to bring some of these black pieces back behind my mushroom in those lighter areas. So these silhouetted kind of black pieces will make it look like that they're coming into focus, that we've got a lot of dimension within the painting. So it just adds a bunch of information when you start adding these silhouetted black type of pieces in a night scene like this. And I'm just bringing some up in through here. Now that I've got that on there, now I'm going to start using black and green on my brush at the same time. And this is where we're going to start to see more of the evidence of the texture within the grass. So in order for me to make it look pretty realistic, what I like to do is I'll put small or shorter grass at the top part of my landscape area, and then as I move down towards the bottom of the canvas, I push my brush harder and I do wider type of pieces. So this is going to make these ones down towards the bottom look like they're really nice and in focus and that we're really close to them. So that's how I give the illusion of depth within this type of scenery. Do them small off in the distance, make sure they're chaotic and they cross over one another, and then as you work your way towards the front of the canvas, that's when you start pushing a little bit harder on your brush. And I like to just kind of flick my brush up and give it curves, and that's going to give me a nice wild type of look to it. Going to make sure that it doesn't look like I'm painting around my objects. So just make sure that I've got these little representations all throughout and they look like they're behind my oops, not on my frog nose. They look like they're behind, and because I'm using black along with the green, it's giving the green a different tone than I had on the frog. So that helps out a lot when it comes to, again, adding more of a realistic look to it. We're going to put some glow on in a little bit too, but right now just kind of adding this wild grass. Again, just green and black, and you can alternate the colors. You can use them at the same time on your brush. I'm going to, again, give some big ones down in through here. And you can see how I just am wild and carefree with it. I pick, you know, you can alternate the colors. One time you pick up green, the next time you pick up black, so you can have some light ones on top of some dark ones. And again, that all helps to add to the illusion of this being outside. And of course, because you're working on a black background for this grass, it will turn a little bit darker as it dries. So as it's drying, if you're finding that some of those pieces of grass are not as bright as you wanted them to be, just keep adding more layers on top of it. And that will, the more layers you have, the brighter it's going to look. And then once I've got that done, I'm going to actually pick up a little bit of red paint. I don't remember if I said I was going to use red or not, but I'm going to pick up a little bit of red and add it in the area of the grass that's around my frog. I did not wash my brush. I just am really looking to add a little bit of the red type of glow onto some of these pieces of grass, so that way it's going to enhance the illusion of my lights, the effect that my light is having on the surrounding area. And again, didn't wash my brush, just picked up a little bit of red to intermingle with some of these pieces of grass, being really carefree about it, so that way it looks nice and natural, that light source, whatever it is just adding a little bit of a glow. You don't want it to look like it's on fire, but you can certainly just add that little bit of illumination value. So now what I'm going to do, and my light is coming down this way, so I'm not doing any on the left. So now what I'm going to do is I'm putting my medium brush away. I'm going to take out my large brush. I'm going to add some leaves on these trees up here. So I'm starting with just black paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be dotting and giving it like a stippled type of effect up at the top of my canvas and down around the sides. And then I'll just pull out some strategic like branch type of areas for the leaves to be resting on. So we've already got some branches in through there, but what I want to do is make it look like there's maybe some branches kind of hanging out from the side. Maybe in the forest there's, you know, some foliage over on the sides, and because I'm using black to start, it's making this foliage stuff look like it's closer to the viewer and more in focus. And I just am kind of tapping with the corner of my brush in order to get these little carefree type of edges to the branches. You can have them going in all kinds of different directions, and I'm not overdoing it. I'm really just kind of wanting to give myself the illusion of we're, you know, nestled in the middle of this forest. This frog is having a delightful evening, just reading a good book, and you know, I want to be there right with him in a nice quiet place that we can hear all the little animals making their chirping noises and stuff. Now once I've got that the silhouette of sorts for these darker leaves, I'm going to actually pick up some green now and add a little bit of a green highlight of sorts to some of these leaves. And I'm going to do it more towards the ones that are closer to the interior of the painting. And you can see, because I'm just using my green oxide, it's showing up as a different color than we did that background. So again, it's just adding a little bit more dimension to it. And I'm just kind of tapping it in to the edges of some of these leaves. And that way, again, it'll give us a fantastic illusion in through here. And then you just kind of keep fiddling with it. If you feel that you want more color, add more color. If you feel like you want more branches, add more branches. Just have fun with it. Let it dry. Sit for a minute and look at it from a distance and see if you want to add anything else. And then we are going to be using this same large brush for the next step. So once you've got all of your grass and leaves on, you can wash and dry this big brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to turn on the light. So we're going to put the light coming out from underneath our beautiful mushroom that's glowing on our frog. So I'm going to use my large brush. The colors I'm using are yellow and white. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know, but in my head, that's where I'm going. So I'm going to start with yellow on my brush. My yellow is translucent or transparent, which means you're going to be able to see right through my yellow. If you're not sure about yours, what you can do is take a little bit of yellow on your brush, and what you can do is cross it, paint it over a light section and a dark section. And if you can still see the stuff underneath it, then you're good to go. It's translucent. If you can't see the stuff underneath it, then what you can do is you can add a little bit of water to it or a little bit of liquid medium until you get to that translucent type of place. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have my light is going to be primarily over on this right hand side, and it's going to be just kind of glowing onto my frog and the right hand side of my mushroom stem. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pull it out from wherever I feel that the light is on. So I feel it's coming out from in through here, so I'm going to just kind of pull it out and give myself these pretty light beams coming out from underneath my my mushroom. I am also going to put some on my stem as well, and I'll also put some in my grass a little bit, and I'll put some in some of the leaves on the trees too. So again, right now I'm just using a little bit of the yellow on my brush. I will introduce white to it in a minute, but right now just kind of setting the stage where I want it to go, or where I want it to glow, I should say. Oops, I think I had a different color I think I picked up a tiny bit of something else on my brush. So I'm washing and drying my brush so I don't taint my see-through yellow here. And then I'm just going to kind of, again, just bring it out. This is, you know, a fantasy painting. You can really have this looking whatever way you want. Maybe there's a tiny bit of a glow over on this side. Just have fun with it. Make it make sense in your own imagination world. And then once I've got my yellow on there, what I'm going to do is I am putting a little bit more yellow on my brush, and I'm going to add little twinkles into my grass. So again, just right now I've got my yellow on my brush. I will be introducing white in a minute, but again, right now, starting with my yellow, just so I don't run into any trouble with it being too much. The yellow is really safe when it's in this translucent state in order for you to give this bit of a glow before you start adding the brightness from the white. So again, just maybe little bits of glow on my grass back here, like maybe it's gone, you know, over past my frog and shown on there. Maybe we've got a little bit of glow on some of this foliage back in through here. So just a little bit of my yellow, maybe a little bit on the tips of these trees. They're being illuminated by whatever this fun light source is. And then once you've got it on there and you're pretty confident that it's where you want it to go, you know, fiddle with it a little bit more if you have to, let it dry if you need to. But now I'm going to start adding a touch of white. So this is a less is more kind of step, just a teeny tiny bit on the corner of my brush. You can always add more, but it's really tough to take away if you've got too much on there. And then start in a place where you want it to be the brightest, just in case you have too much on your brush. So this is kind of the place where I want mine to be the brightest. So I'm just going to start pulling it out in through here. And again, you can always add more. Like right now I'm adding a little bit of white and yellow onto my brush to give myself a bit more brightness coming out of where I want this light source to be. And you know, if you run into trouble, just kind of back off for a minute, maybe wash your brush, let it dry for a minute, and then just keep fiddling with it until you've got the brightness in that you want. I think I want a little bit more brightness on the edge of my my stem, my mushroom stem. I just picked up a little bit of yellow. So I'm using primarily white, but every now and again I pick up a tiny bit of the yellow as well, just to make sure that it blends in the way that I want it to. Maybe we've got a little extra glow on some of these pieces right next to our beautiful light. So you just have fun with the intensity of your glow, and then just play with it until you've got it into the intensity that you want. Maybe a little extra up in through here. And then once it's as beautiful and as lit up as you want it to be, we have one tiny little step left to go, and it's going to be with the small brush. So you can put this large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going with my small brush. I'm going to go bottom left with green paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol or whatever you'd like for your identifying mark to be is totally fine. It's your painting. You get to sign it however you would like to. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a really fun storybook type illustrative painting, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.